Yes, we've got an absolute belter. It's the most fashionable guy in football, and Robbie Savage. How you doing, mate?
So I've got a call, by the way, but I like them trainers.
They're my dad's Balenciagas.
Oh, really? Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
High tech. I remember them high tech.
You have them back in the day?
High tech, yeah.
I must say, by the way, immaculate.
I know.
And the bannet's much better than I thought it'd be.
Really? Really?
What's in it, Moose?
No, it's just like a trademark.
Just natural, mate.
Natural.
Bloody gorgeous, by you.
I know. My teeth cost a fortune, though.
I want to thank you as well, because this set in Alderley Edge, well, we usually do these in a crack den in Glasgow.
Yeah. It is nice here. Alderley Edge, lovely.
Lovely. Do you ever get up to Glasgow to watch your beloved Rangers?
My beloved Rangers. So obviously that's a bit of banter with Chris Sutton. I just go against Chris Sutton because, listen, I don't support either the Celtic or Rangers. I was a big fan of Celtic with Martin O'Neill, my ex-boss, John Hartson, who was my ex-roommate, Neil Lennon. So I used to like Celtic, but then as soon as Chris started, going banging on about Celtic, and I'm a friend of Steven Gerrard, so now I've gone on the Rangers side of the fence, and I just love hammering Chris when Rangers, get a result and Celtic don't.
Well, is Sutton's banter, is his banter good?
Brilliant, great lad.
He's funny,
Getting so well, good friends, but even when Celtic are winning, he was just going about how Rangers lost. But now, I think you've got a title race on. I still think Celtic will win it. But you've got to say, Steven Gerrard, what he's achieved so far with Rangers, to make the league competitive, and Steve Clarke at Kilmarnock and McInnes at Aberdeen, but it is Celtic and Rangers now. And when Rangers outplayed Celtic in that 1-0 victory, I thought Rangers were absolutely brilliant. And, he's got some good players in now, so listen, I'm sure you won a competitive league, everybody in Scotland does, but I think Steven Gerrard has done brilliantly well.
Are you much more into the Scottish game now? You obviously
I do, yeah.
That's great, mate.
Chris winds me out there when Rangers went into Division 3, I offered to play for them for nothing, and they didn't take that opportunity. But that was tongue-in-cheek, really. But Chris holds that against me, and every time I start winning an argument, he just resorts to, well, Rangers didn't want you in League 3. So, but I think people are quite negative towards the standard of Scottish football. I think, when it's all about money, when you've got Celtic and, the wage difference between the Scottish Premiership, is it called the SPFL?
SPFL,
I know that as well. And the Premier League in England, it's completely different. And when you've got teams who are in third and fourth, when players are getting £1,500, £2,000 a week, you can't compare. So I think when people are negative towards Scottish football, they don't really know, they haven't done their research. And I'm a big fan of Scottish football.
You wouldn't have got your bed for that, though, would you?
I would now, yeah.
I know, we've seen the fee that you've charged us. You did nothing for free. Right, we'll talk about the old career, mate.
Yeah.
Early days growing up in Wales, what was it, just football all the time, or was it rugby
football,
as well?
Just football, North Wales. I lived in a cul-de-sac with my mother, father and brother, and we used to have the green in the middle of the estate I lived in. And every school holiday, it was as soon as we woke up, bouncing the ball, knocking on my mates' doors, and played on that piece of grass until it went dark. So my father used to come and I was the first one. I used to have to go in because I was playing with all the older lads, my brother's mates, and that what made me really toughen up. And it was, I always say, the younger brother seems to do quite well because you are, he didn't used to, he was good with me, but when you're playing with the bigger, stronger boys, they used to kick me all over the park, and it made me stronger.
How was your dad? Was he quite a demanding parent? Or did
No, not at all. No, just let me get on with it. Wasn't a footballer. Loved it. He supported Wrexham.
Is that your team as well?
Yeah, was an engineer. Loved his football, but I work with an under-13 side now, and parents can become a problem. But my father was, so supportive. Never really thought I'd be a footballer. Never. That's why there was no pressures. There shouldn't have been any pressures anyway, because I just loved doing what I'd done. And I sometimes you still can't believe now what you achieved. And my father probably just never believed it would happen anyway. So it was, he was so supportive, as was my mother.
How did the Man United move come about then?
So I was playing for my dad's team. So we had a team called Bradley, and I was going to Crewe School of Excellence at the time. Every Monday, so my father would get home from work at 5, have no dinner, have no tea, get in the car straight to Crewe, and then back home at 10. So he was so supportive in enabling me to be a footballer by taking me everywhere. And I was playing for his local side. I was on schoolboy forms at Crewe, and I was playing for his local side, my local side, Bradley. And we played in a semi-final of a cup, and I scored, and I played well. And my mother and father were putting the kit away, and it was Plasmatic in Wrexham. I mean, they were putting the kit away, and there was an elderly gentleman outside the door, and I tapped my mum on the shoulder and said, who's the number 8? I believe it's your son. So I said, yeah, I'm just putting the kit away. And she ignored him. So he gave her a card, and then she put it in her coat pocket. So in the car on the way home, she just went in the coat pocket and she seen the Manchester United scout. And she said, oh, he's just been picked up by a Manchester United scout. Here's his number. I said, what do you mean you didn't speak to him? And I was crying in the back. What do you mean you didn't speak to him? We got home, we rung him, and then, I went for trials, a week's trial in the school holidays. David Beckham, John O'Kane, Chris Casper, Keith Gillespie. And unbelievably, and this is where you never know, you play football, and
very badly.
We had a trial, not surprising. We had a trial, and a trial game, and Fergie was there, and it was the worst I've ever played. You know yourself as a footballer. You don't need your mum, your dad, your mates, whoever to tell you. You know yourself if you've played good, bad, or indifferent. And I come off the pitch, and my dad, he was sick, and I was sick, and I said I blew it, and I was awful. And then I went back to the digs on the Thursday night, and the Friday we were leaving. And on the Thursday night, the scout Hugh Roberts phoned up my parents and said, we want to sign him on a 4-year contract. And I was still baffled because Fergie seen something which I don't know to this day what it was, because I was so bad, honestly. But it just goes to show, I tried hard, tried to do the right things. So he must have seen something in me, which if you were watching and parents were watching, you'd have been saying he's rubbish. But he's seen something, and that went from there.
Do you think that's probably what the greatness of Alex Ferguson was?
Yeah, obviously, one of the best managers ever been. But he's seen something on that particular day and game, which, we wouldn't have seen. But he's seen something, and from that moment, I signed a 4-year contract.
So even at that age, was there a lot of noises about Beckham in schools and gigs?
Well, we were just mates. It was just obviously the well-renowned class of '92. We were just mates. It was just I grew up with him, so you don't realise how special you are until you're playing that class of '92. Because when the names then are Scholes, Neville, Giggs, Beckham, they're just your mates. They're not names at the time. But then when they get in the first team, and then not only now, the legends of the game, but to play in that same youth team, growing up, they were just your mates. Do you know what I mean? So it's not like I was signed for Manchester United when they're all renowned names, famous. You were just going through the journey with them. And they all worked hard. They all put in extras. So it's no coincidence that team, the majority, were legends. And even myself made a career out of football because there was one common denominator: the work ethic and desire.
Who had the better Barnett, you or Beckham?
I've got to say, I'm like a fine wine.
No, you've aged better, haven't you?
Yeah, I was not the best.
Oh, were you not?
Looking at, but I've got to say now, I've gone past all expectations.
How was it living in digs, living away from your home? And who were you in digs with?
I was with 16 of us. There was Keith Gillespie. So me and Keith Gillespie shared a room smaller than this. We had she had a door. His single bed was there. There was a table. My bed was there against the wall, and we had a TV with a video recorder in, so it was a built-in one. And we shared a room for 3 or 4 years together. Great lad. Obviously, I remember him making his first team debut against, I think it was Bury in the League Cup, and he played exceptionally well. I'm not sure if he scored. I think it was 2-0. Either scored or set a couple up. And I remember he went to the shop the morning after to get all the newspapers, and back page of every paper, the new George Best. It was that, everybody who was a winger from Ireland was the new George, and he was brilliant, Keith. And I was just thinking, I wish that was me, because, he was magnificent. And that was the start, really, of them all getting to the first team. But I shared with him Colin McKee from Scotland.
Right, no, I never heard of him.
Never heard of him? No? Well, he played for Man United first team, played for Kilmarnock later in his career. Lee Sharp, Mark Bosnich. Because there was obviously different age groups in the digs in Salford, just opposite the cliff. It was a great time. I was a bit homesick, I must admit, because when you leave house 15, 16, it is quite difficult, but it was a wonderful time.
So you being the youngest in the digs, would the older ones abuse you a bit?
No, you'd have a bit of banter between you all. There was the hierarchy, the older professionals would, you know, they would not rule the digs, but they would have the say, you know, and that was it. But you know, we all got on so well.
What about with the first team? Because as I know, Ritual at Man United, you need to sing and all that in front of the first team players. Do you need to do that?
Yeah. As the first year apprentices, you know, I had to do, you know, certain initiations, you know, as did Scholesy, Becks, you know, there was various things. But it come to the point where I just done it. I just done my initiations because then they'd leave you alone. You know, obviously, you know, now it would be probably be different. I don't think you could get away now. What, you know, some of the like getting stuffed in the tumble dryer with it turned on. You know, some of the lads used to hide so that it's to stop themselves doing initiations. But listen, it was all in good spirit. But it was ruthless at times.
Would you get nights out in the digs, or did you say you lived your life properly?
No, the lads would go out into Manchester at times, but you
Hacienda, no?
It was. I think it was called the Palais. I think on a Wednesday night. But you know, I was just so focused on being a footballer. What we used to do, the lads who stayed in digs, because you had the local lads like Nicky Butt, Carl Brown, Scholesy, Chris Casper, Gary Neville. They would be the local lads, so they would live at home and just go to train every day. But the lads in digs, myself, Keith Gillespie, Becks, John O'Kane, we'd go and do extra training with the. So we were apprentices, and at the Cliff you'd have the indoor facility. So we'd train and 9 till 4 or whatever it was, go back to our digs, have dinner, and then go back and do extra training with the School of Excellence. So you know, we would rather do that than go out.
Was it Eric Harrison that was in charge?
Eric Harrison, great man.
Was he? What was so good about him? Because obviously everyone speaks so fondly.
Just wanted you to do the best. Hard work was first and foremost. Said it how it was. Just your work ethic, and you used to have to do the jobs, you know, and he wouldn't let us go. If anybody hadn't done one job, they'd keep you behind until they'd all done. He was just a great man, and you know, the reason why so many of those guys done so well.
I read somewhere that you were a centre forward.
I was, yeah.
Did you tackle many goals?
I tackled corner flags. I used to chase everything down. I was never, you know, this is it's not a regret, but it's one thing that I wish I'd have been a midfield player going through that system, because, you know, I could run all day, I could tackle, you know, contrary to what people think, I could pass the ball, I could receive the ball in any area of the pitch. You know, but I was a centre forward. I didn't have much pace, but I could run all day. I wasn't strong. I was very skinny. You know, so I just wish that, you know, as I go back to when Fergie see me in that game and seeing something that nobody else did, you know, I can't understand how nobody see me as a centre midfield player going through that academy system. It was until Bobby Gould seeing me playing for Wales under 21s that I was actually moved back into midfield, because when I went to Crewe, I was a centre forward. You know, but I was never a centre forward.
But even at that age, could you tell that you were better than other kids there?
Well, when you say better than other kids, I think the big argument I have now with everybody is that for anybody to make a living out of professional football, whether it be the National League, League Two, how good do you have to be? Because there's so many kids out there who want to be a footballer, and we can go to any park pitch any day of the week and see a game of football on a Sunday, wherever it may be, in Glasgow, in Manchester, and you can see pub teams, you can see grassroots teams, and you're looking at players thinking, wow, he's good. But you think how good you have to be to earn a living out of playing football on a daily basis. So when people say he's not very good, he's crap, he's this, he's that, you know, I don't like that, because, you know, people don't realise how good you have to be as a footballer to make a living out of football.
See yourself, obviously you've got a reputation as being quite chirpy. Were you like that as a young lad? Were you chirpy around the first team players?
I was, you know, I was one of the lads. You know, I used to do the initiations. You know, and it's made me the character I was. You know, captain in 4 Premier League teams, my country. You know, and then when you get
that wee bit in there, I have fun.
Just saying, stating facts. Not making that up. You know, it enables you to, you know, as a captain, I then could bring the youngsters in, put an arm around them. I knew how to handle them in terms of if they needed a lift, if they needed to have a go at. you know. But one thing that if you ask most players who play with me, you know, I would some wouldn't like me, but the majority I would hope would say, do you know what, Sav was a great lad.
The most I've spoke to have said that actually. But see, when you're a chirpy young lad, how would the older boys take to that?
They'd love it, yeah. They'd love
it.
Like
you giving them a bit back,
yeah, love it. But listen, I was respectful, of course. You know, you'd have to knock on the first team door at the Cliff, Manchester United, when you had legends Mark Hughes, Cantona, Brian Robson, Lee Sharp, Giggsy, Brian McClare, Gary Pallister, Steve Bruce. You'd respect them, and that's what I was taught, and that's what Eric Harrison taught us. You know, you respect, you know, the elder players, whether it was the second year apprentices, the first year pros. And that's what I'd done all the way throughout my career.
Would you have a good relationship with Hughes and Giggsby, being a Welshman?
Hughesy was my hero, you know, and when your hero actually buys you for Blackburn and you play for him when he's managing your country, it is great, and that's why I tend to stick up for him now. I know he's no longer in a job, but as a pundit, I try and stick up for him. I try and look for the positives in managers and in players rather than... It's easy to be negative in this life. Anybody can write a nasty or a horrible story, whether it's on Twitter, in the newspapers, without thought. Mm-hmm. You know, if you can be more positive about people, that's for me what I try and do. You know, when Mark Hughes is from the same area as you, he took me home in his Porsche once, dropped me off at my mum and father's house as a youngster, as an apprentice.
Did he?
Yeah, you know, so the guy was my hero. So it's amazing when, you know, you actually get to play with your hero and then play for your hero, and your hero actually buys you, you know. So the last thing I'm ever going to do is, because what he made my life, he gave myself and my family an opportunity, you know, to have a good life, you know, by buying me, by paying me a decent wage, you know. So why on earth, if he struggles in management, which, you know, people will say he has, why on earth am I going to have a go at him when he's made my family life, you know, to have a good life?
How did it come about with the Porsche? Just after training, they'll take you up?
Yeah. My father couldn't pick me up, and I was obviously a youngster, and he lived not far from me, so he dropped me off at my mum and dad's house.
Did your mates see it?
No. He's great. Well, imagine doing that. Like, that's like, you know, I know I can see you're in awe of me. It's like me dropping you off at the...
Can you drop it?
It's like me dropping you off at the station now. You're telling your mates about it.
Would you pay my ticket now?
No.
Obviously, Sir Alex, how good was he?
I didn't really see much of him, you know. Obviously, it was Eric
Harrison. Did you
Harrison.
get a dressing down there?
No, because I never made the first team. I lived next door to him when I signed for Blackburn for 6 months.
Did you?
Yeah. We lived in Wilmslow in a cul-de-sac, and I lived next door to him. And do you know what? To this day, for 6 months, when I used to leave the house, he'd be gone, and when I got home, he'd not be in. So the work ethic of that man is incredible, and that's why he was so successful. Because, you know, it's a tough job, and I think people have now seen, you know, what's happened since he's left Manchester United, how good a job he done.
So you never see him take the bins out or anything?
Never seen him do anything, no.
You never get a chat with him?
Never seen him, no. Never seen him, no.
That'd have been brilliant.
Unbelievable, 6 months.
Yeah. So when did you feel your time was up at Old Trafford? Was there a certain point that you thought, right, I need to go now?
No, I thought I was going to get another contract. I done a 2-year schoolboy, 2-year YTS, and I got a year pro. So I was there for 5 years, and in that last season when I was 19, you know, I don't make excuses, but I missed 4 months of that season because I had a double hernia operation which got infected. So I missed 4 months, and I played, I think, about 15 reserve games that season. I played up front with Dion Dublin. Played with Lee Sharp, and I scored about 6 or 7 goals in the reserve team. And then it was just a day when we were all getting told, and I had an inkling because Neville's, Beck's, Gillespie, Scholes, they all had 4. Nicky Butt, all had 4-year contracts on the back of, you know, that year. And I got told, I knocked on his door, and he just said, "Listen, I'm going to let you go. I've got better players here than you at the minute." But he said, "I honestly believe that you will come back to haunt me one day." And you know, I did. Obviously, went to Old Trafford with Blackburn, done a double over him that season, beaten 4-3, won at Old Trafford 2-1, won at Leicester, won at Old Trafford with Leicester. You know, so, you know, and to this day, Eric Harrison would say that he thought I would have, you know, played in the first team, but I didn't. You know, when you have a go at Manchester United now, people say, "Oh, you're bitter because you didn't make the first team." But no, listen, I had a wonderful experience there, an experience where not many people in my situation would have had. You know, my son's having the same experience now.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about that.
Yeah, he's now got a scholarship, starts in July. So it's amazing to think that, how lucky am I that I had that experience, and now my 15-year-old's got it. It's great.
See, when you used to go back to Old Trafford, did you always felt like you had a point to prove to him?
Yeah, look, of course, because nobody likes getting told you're not good enough, no matter what you do, what job you work on. And if you're told you're not good enough, of course you're gonna try and prove a point. And it's not the fact that when you get told you're not good enough, it's when you're driving home. And I had the car crash in my Fiesta, because I didn't want to tell Mum and Dad that I got released. So I'm driving home the day I got released in my little £900 white Fiesta, which Mum and Dad bought.
I've just bought it off you in the car park then.
So I'm there, and I phoned my mate and said, listen, come, let's go for a game of snooker, because I can't tell Mum and Dad yet I've been released. And then I had a head-on crash. My pal in his Fiesta went into the back of me. I had to get cut out of the car. So lost a feel of my arm. So not only have you been released by the biggest club in the world, the same day you ended up in hospital, not knowing if you're going to get the feeling back in your arm, not knowing if you're going to play again, and then for your mum and dad to come to your hospital bed to say, are you all right, son, to first and foremost, and then to tell them that I've been let go, it was a hard day, really. So, so it was...
But did that stand you in good stead for the rest of your career?
Of course it did. Of course it did, but, it's... you have options, don't you? You have options. Do I give in? Like a lot of people would have, or do you continue the fight? And I thought, you know what? I've still got something to prove, and you need a little bit of luck. I went back to Crewe under Dario, and I was in the B team for a year, playing at Rees Heath, playing in Crewe's B team. So you go from Manchester United, class of '92, to being this best team ever, to then playing on, B team in the B team at Crewe. When I was 19, a lot of people would have given up, but I didn't.
So for all the highs you've had playing the Premier League, captain, there's loads of lows. People didn't see that either, did they?
Lots of lows.
You've been through all that stuff.
Lots of lows. You imagine playing in the class of '92, win the Youth Cup, people talking about you, going to every competition you play and beating Barcelona, Inter Milan, and then getting released, having a car crash the same day, and then for a year, nowhere near Crewe's first team because the physicality in League 1 or 2 was different. And I was nowhere near it. So then you're thinking, this could be it.
See, just last on Man United, class 92, I'm sure you've been asked about who did you think was the best?
I thought Gillespie was great because of his pace. Nicky Butt was brilliant, his drive runs from midfield. Becks, they were all good, but, the best one was Scholesy, who inevitably went on to be the best in my opinion. But, Giggsy was part of the class 92, of course he was, but the ones I went through, because when we were all coming through, Giggsy was training with the first team, but we could all stay together, so I'd say Scholesy.
The Neville's hopeless.
No, great, they were.
Crewe, see when you see that, you go from Man United to Crewe and then you're not playing. Yeah. Was there ever a stage that you thought about chucking it now?
No, because I always had that belief. That, do you know what, just keep going, because, I knew that it's just something inside me that I always wanted to be a footballer. Everybody, I'm sure, wants to be a footballer. It doesn't mean you are going to be a footballer, but I just knew that I had to. I used to have a pint of Guinness every night. My dad worked in a firm which made cans, and he used to come home with cans of Guinness. And to get stronger and bigger and quicker, I used to drink a can of Guinness every single night. I hated the taste because it was full of iron. And I was led to believe it would make you stronger. It didn't. But. These are the things I would do, to just look at everything to try and make myself better. And I wouldn't say to my son now, who's 15, drink a can of Guinness every night. But I was only 7.5 stone. Wow. I was so skinny. I matured late. And that's what I'd say now to all the young kids out there who are trying to be footballer. People mature at different rates. So you can be the best. You can be the best player in the world at 13. By 17, 18, people have caught up with you, and it's a different game. So. That's why I'd say that when Jesse Lingard played 2 years down at Manchester United. Now look at him now. Scott McTominay was small. Now look at the size of him. So, it's a great. I know we've gone off a bit off track, but it's a great, advice for any youngster who feels like they've got an opportunity. Is people develop at different rates, and that's what I say to my son now. I was small. He's small. But. People get frustrated because they think they should be there and there now.
People are quite short-sighted, aren't they?
It's short-sighted, it's the long game in football.
Just on Crewe, how different is a Crewe dressing room to a Man United dressing room? What league were Crewe in then?
I think Crewe were in League 2, but obviously you're going from an environment where your kit's laid out, everything's done for you. Your boots, you're cleaning boots. I cleaned Mark Hughes and Brian McClare's. but everything's done for you. You're going to watch the first team. Then you go to Crew, you have one kit, you have to take the kit home and wash it every single day. It was, I think the sponsors, you're going from Adidas to, I think Crew were Van den El.
Oh, man.
So it's like, it's just all different, but that stood me in great stead because I knew both sides of football then. I think what you got now is people in academies now only, when you're at the top academies, the elite level, you only see one side of football. It's when you get tested and you have to go and wash your own kit, you have to get the bus to training, you have to do X, Y, and Z, which you've never done before. And I think it stood me in good stead for my career because I knew I wanted to get back to where I'd been, and going through taking your own kit home, washing it, going to the chip shop for dinner every single day, which is by Grestry Road.
What, the whole team would have a chippy for dinner?
Well, yeah, you'd have to take your own dinner. So I just got the chippy, because I wanted to put weight on it. It's just I was on fish and chips and peas and curry every single day, staying back after. So I've seen both sides where everything's done for you at that level, where this level, when you then become a man, because you're playing with, big physical, players who are accustomed to playing at that level. When you're 7.5, 8 stone, come from Manchester United, they can think, who's this kid? When you don't live up to your expectation, it can be difficult. So I'm glad I've seen both sides of the journey and it stood me in good stead.
Was there a few scary characters in that Crew team?
Not really, they were all. Danny Murphy, Dealey Adebola.
Neil Lennon,
who I lived with when I went for a bit when I signed for Leicester. But, we had a very, very good team and we played some great football. Players, there was a Francis Teeny who was going to go to Liverpool, he didn't, Stevie Garvey. We had some wonderful, wonderful players.
How was that flat with Lenny? Was it like men behaving badly?
No, when I was joined for Leicester, he obviously, because I lived in a Holiday Inn, but he said, come and live with me for a bit. Great lad, Lenny,
Good player?
Very good player, yeah. Underrated, done the
dentist side.
Yeah, it's amazing now that these players now who get the ball back and give it to their own side, worth 20, 30, 40, 50 million quid.
Is the banter better at a League Two club than at a Man United? Is it more a laugh?
It's a laugh anywhere. You've been in changing rooms. A changing room is what you make of it, the team spirit. Things are easy when it's going well. I was in a changing room Derby, 11 points, lowest ever Premier League total. That wasn't easy. But change rooms are what you make them.
You became a key figure for Crew, promotion to Division 2.
Yeah, I did, but I got left out of the playoffs. So again, another knock to my career when I played every single game in that season, 41 games out of 46. The 5 I missed was when I was on international duty with Wales. And then I come back and Dario offered me a new contract and it was 220 quid a week for 2 years. And I said, I'm not so sure. So it was the playoffs, Luton, semi-finals. And he pulled me and said, I'm not going to play you. So I was obviously, why? About my contract. So they had a boy from Liverpool called Stephen Charnock who played instead of me, he was on loan. So I didn't play in the semi-finals and missed the final against Brentford, which Crew won 1-0. Was it Sean Smith who scored the goal? So even though it was a great season for me, I missed out on the Wembley final because I wouldn't sign my contract, and that inevitably, see me sign for Leicester.
So see, as a young lad, would you go and chat managers' doors and stuff like that?
No. He just pulled me in and just said, listen, I'm not going to play. But I played in every single game. The 5 I missed was with Wales. And
was that part of the reason for you wanting to leave as well?
No, because I wasn't signing my contract because, I just thought, £220 a week was a lot of money. But I just thought, I just going to take my chance.
And how soon were you aware of Martin O'Neill's interest?
Well, it was Leicester City, it was Crystal Palace, Steve Coppell, it was Malmo in Sweden.
It was suited you, the old Malmo.
I went to see Jim Jeffries.
Did you?
I went up to Tynecastle and that was my first stop, so we were doing a tour. So my agent took me to Hearts first and foremost, went to Tynecastle. Gary Naismith was captain, or he was playing at the time. I think they won the cup that year, or the Scottish Cup near that time. Right. So Jim Jeffries, manager, showed me around Tynecastle, loved it. So left Hearts, I was going to sign for Hearts. Then I went to Crystal Palace, met Steve Coppell. Then I was going to sign for Crystal Palace. But then I met John Robertson, the famous.
Great guy, yeah.
Great player as well, with Nottingham Forest. Met him. Martin was on holiday. So I met him. He showed me around Filbert Street. And from the moment I met Robbo, I knew it was going to be Leicester. And then Martin phoned me that night from his holiday and said, we're going to sign you. And it's funny how football works, because they actually see me playing for Crewe. They went to watch Danny Murphy, I'm led to believe. We played Wimbledon in the FA Cup, and Murph went to Liverpool. But I was the one that stood out, and they remember me from that game. Therefore, that's why they signed me. So it was Leicester.
What is it about Martin O'Neill that's so? What is it that's so good about him?
You can't actually put your finger on it, but with me, he was just. He'd never allow you to get too close to him. You think for 1 minute you were his best mate, and then for a week he would ignore you in the corridor. You never knew where you were. But I tell you what he'd do. He'd get every single ounce. He knew his players inside out, individually and collectively. So with me, he knew the best thing to get the best out of me was, not be horrible to me, but say things which would make me think, I'm going to show you.
What sort of things would he say?
There was a couple of things that stand out when I played against Liverpool, match of the day, come on, John Motson was the commentator. We drew against Liverpool 2-2. I think Muzzy scored 2, but I got the man of the match. So after the game, I'm sitting there, my first ever house, all my parents, my family there. You want to be on match of the day as a kid, don't you, when the music comes on? And I just remember John Motson coming on to interview Martin, and he said 2-2 today, good result. Martin said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Muzzy is it with 2 goals, but the boy that stood out today was your forward decided £1,000 signing from Crewe, Robbie Savage. Martin said, yeah, done well today. He said, but he lacks one thing. And John Motson said, what? And he said, ability. So it was that was our match of the day. And he pulled me in on the Monday morning. He said, did you watch the match today? I said, yeah. So he said, well, I've just bought Arne Gunlags, remember him?
Baldy player.
3 million from Bolton, and he wasn't playing, but he had far more ability than me. And he said, listen, I've just bought Arne for 3 million. He's not on the side. Why? I said, I've got no idea. It's just, he said, well, you're in my team because I know I'm going to get every single week. You give everything. What you lack in ability, you give more in energy, desire, personality, and that's why you're in my side. The other time was, Martin used to have this habit of coming at half time, and he used to shut the door, and you'd all be sitting in the changing room, and you'd be thinking, right, who's he gonna come after? And you'd be thinking, please don't be me. And he used to have this green jumper with the sleeves rolled up, and he'd stand against the wall, he'd put his glasses there, and he'd just do that, and he'd be looking round. And we played Arsenal, and I remember I tried to do a Maradona turn against Patrick Vieira, and the ball went out of play. Jerry Taggart passed me the ball, and I've tried to do that, it's gone out of play. And Martin's gone berserk on the sideline. So I'm thinking, right, I'm going to get it at half-time here. So we come in, half-time, we're all sitting there. Tag wants to kill me. I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, right, I'm going to get it. And he went straight for Tags, and he's gone, what have I told you? Do not pass him the ball. So inadvertently, he had a go at me, but not having a go at me. But, a great guy, my friend now. Glad to see him back in football, Nottingham Forest. But, he had this aura about him. Wouldn't do much in training.
No tactics now. Was it 5-a-sides?
Steve Walford and John Robertson, yeah. It was tactics. No tactics hardly, no pattern of play. It was just all about, expressing yourself, believing yourself. We played 3-5-2, we played with wing backs, Guppy, and I started as a wing back until I went to the midfield role. But we just used to out-battle teams, outrun teams. We had a great togetherness, winning cup finals, finishing 7th in the Premier League. It was a great time. You
ever see anyone have a go back at him, or was everyone scared?
Yeah, I've seen a few. He had a few up by against the wall. But how could you ever go back at him? He'd won the European Cup on a couple of occasions.
Would he remind you of that as well? Huh?
No, he wouldn't actually. No, he wouldn't. But he used to join in training a few times, as did John Robertson, who was magnificent.
He was great.
But the whole team, it's a team. Steve Walford, Martin O'Neill, John Robertson. Great team.
See, as soon as you went into the Premier League, did you feel comfortable straight away? And were you nervous before going into it?
Of course, you never know what you're going to do, because there's some better players than me who've never succeeded in the Premier League. But the environment I went into, where Martin would have pulled players, Muzzy Izzet come from Chelsea reserves, Neil Lennon from Crewe. You've got the environment where players had been on the same journey as me, so there was no superstars. Obviously, I had Emil Heskey, who come through the ranks, but went on to do great things. So you have an environment of players, Matty Elliott from Oxford. So they'd gone the same journey. So you're not going into a team full of superstars. You know that you're going into a group who have been where you've been. So that made it quite easy.
Mm-hmm. That back three, Taggart, Elliott and Steve Walsh, how hard did they think?
that was tough. Tim Flowers behind them. You know, that eventually went to Frank Sinclair. You know, but it was a tough team, good team, solid team. You know, and I've gotten a few altercations on the pitch with other teams, but you just knew that they'd have your back, and they certainly did.
Would you get at each other though, like in training?
Of course
games?
you would, yeah. Of course you would. Yeah.
I think that's gone at the game a wee bit now as well.
We used to train as we played. And Martin's staff, if you train well, you know, you'd actually have an opportunity of playing, because they were always that belief that, you know, you train as you play, and that's how I always used to do. So I never used to, you know, take the foot off the gas and train. I used to train how I played, and because I had to. You know, I couldn't just stroll around training, you know, and then think I'd perform on a Saturday. So all that group used to train how we played.
Would you go into games even against Man U, Arsenal, thinking you could beat them?
Yeah, we did. Liverpool, we had a great record. Manchester United, we had a great record. You know, we did, yeah. You know, Arsenal was the team we didn't like playing.
Bergkamp done that flick in that game, didn't he? Had a hat-trick.
They used to hammer us most occasions. You know, that 3-3 game, that was his hat-trick. And, you know, that shows we were 2-1 down, weren't we, in the 90th minute, drew 3-3. And that was my first start, I think, for Leicester. That was against Vieira and Petit. You know, I got taken off about 70-odd minutes, but, you know, to be involved in that game just goes to show the team spirit we had.
Brilliant. First League Cup final, your first final, obviously, your career. How was it leading up to that game, Spurs? Was it nerves, excitement? What was Martin like? What was the team like?
Brilliant. He took us to London 2 days before. He just went to a show. You know, he just picked the pitch to train on. Wasn't like organised, just that bit of grass there. It's just incredible, really. You always used to say the team, the morning of the games, you never knew if you were playing. And obviously it's the infamous cup final where I got Justin Edinburgh sent off wrongly. You know, obviously he swung out. You know, maybe it was a red card because obviously he did swing, but he caught me on my hair. I went down holding my face, you know, and got him sent off. And then obviously Alan Nielsen scored in the 89th minute to win the cup for Spurs. And, you know, so it wasn't a great day, but to play at Wembley was fantastic.
You can't touch the Barnet.
No, not the Barnet, no.
What's he thinking, How was Martin after that? Is that when he's
brilliant.
Good at lifting the players after a disappointment like that?
Because I was down. I remember I'd get it for breakfast the next morning, all over the paper. I was getting hammered, you know, by journalists saying I was X, Y, and Z. And I was wrong what I'd done, but I was just trying to bend it, you know. I thought if you get a man sent off, down to 10 men, we were the better side. You know, I had a job to man David Ginola on that day, and I'd done it exceptionally well. You know, but that got totally people didn't look at that. They just looked at me trying to get another professional sent off. But Martin said that exact thing to me. He said, listen, take all the negativity out of the way. You were brilliant. And from him to say that the day after the cup final when we got beat and I got one of their players sent off, for him to sit at breakfast with the next morning and say, listen, forget all the negativity. You were brilliant today, son. You know, so that was great for me.
Did you love that when he gave you a role to go like Mark Ginola because he trusted you to do it? Yeah, I did. And I remember he did it with Pontus Carmark, did he, against Juninho in the final they won before that. I think it was 97, 98 when they won in a replay. Pontus Carmark done it with Juninho, and I did it with Ginola. And Ginola to this day will say he remembers it because I kicked him all over the park. And how was he taking it when you'd beat him all over with you?
He was fine, listen, he was fine, because that's why I was a good player. You know, you want to get close to him, you've got to try and affect them. You know, you hear now about modern day football fans want to play expansive, beautiful football and stay in the Premier League. You know, and I done a piece with Sean Dyche last week, and he said it's about effective football. And that's what you got to do as a footballer. I think you have to affect the game. And that's what I used to do. Do
you still get stick off Spurs fans for it?
I get stick wherever I go.
Does that bother you?
A little bit when you're with your family, of course it does. You know.
Oh, when you're with your family, you get it as well.
Yeah.
Ordinary.
You know, I'm just a normal lad who's worked hard, done well. You know, love what I do. You know, it's just football fans feel that they know you, feel that they got a perception of you, and feel like, you know, I've had it on trains, I've had it everywhere. I've been spat at, I've been punched, I've had my house windows smashed, I've had people in balaclava turn up to my house. I've had everything, you know, and it gets to a point where now on a Saturday when you're leaving your job, you know, and you've got football fans who are drunk on trains, feel that you know you have to smile and laugh along with them because you don't want to get into an altercation.
Peter, it's only a bag of air, isn't it?
What?
It's only a bag of air. It's only football.
Yeah, but listen, it's the best game in the world, and it's tribal, it's passionate. But, you know, there comes a point when I'm just a normal guy who's a family man who loves what I do.
See that part of your game, winding people up, was that always a tactic before the game? Would you pick somebody and you think,
Yeah, listen, I'd have to get myself going. I'd have to go and smash somebody up early on and try and get a yellow card to get myself going. There'd be games when it'd be 0-0. Remember the game against Middlesbrough? Danny Mills. It was 0-0, 20 minutes had gone up St Andrews. You know, nothing was happening, so I thought, right, I'll go and try and smash you. I missed him, and he grabbed me there's a picture, he grabbed me by the throat. And we went on to win the game 3-0, I think it was. I scored a free kick, set one up, and it got me and the crowd going. So I'm not saying go out and smash people, you know, try and win the ball, but it was Danny Mills.
Was there somebody that would date back to you? Was there somebody?
Everybody tried to kick me.
Was it like that back then?
I remember against Bolton. Is that right? I remember against Bolton. They had 2 sent off, didn't they, in the opening 20 minutes? Paul Warhurst and Dean Oldsworth. They were out with 10 men, 2-0. And this is the only time in my career where I don't know if he did, it was Dave Bassett was manager. We were 2-0 up. They went down to 10 men. After 20 odd minutes, he took me off because he thought I'd have got sent off. And that for me was a manager who didn't know me. You know, probably the only manager, when you go through your career having 89 yellow cards and only 1 red, you know, that says to me that I can get an early yellow, but I'm clever enough, you know, not to get sent off. You know, in that game, 9 men down, Bolton were 2-0 up. He took me off for the 24 minutes, you know, and because I'd been booked. Well, I said to him, we finished the game 2-2. And I said to him, why did you take me off? And he said, well, you know, you had a yellow. And I said, well, that's why you don't know me. I wouldn't have got sent off.
Mm-hmm. So you've got that restraint,
Yeah,
would you know one that would lose your head now?
No. Because the facts will tell you, 89 yellow cards and 1 red will say that I could keep my head.
What a head it is. 3 top 10 finishes in a row. And another League Cup final.
Yeah.
Is it only Martin that could have get that out of the players, or were the players really good as well?
Well, you think the team. We have Steve Guppy, who got an England cap. As you said, the back 3. Then we brought Andy Impey in, who was fantastic. The midfield 3, me, Lennon, is it. And then we had Heskey and Cotty, and then we had Collymore and Heskey up front. So listen, we were a good, very, very good side. Great work ethic. Guppy would deliver great balls into the box. Muzzy is it. One of the most underrated players I've played with. Brilliant technique, great lad. You know, and we had one of the best goalkeepers in Tim Flowers. So we had a very, very good side.
How good was Heskey even at that age?
Brilliant.
How strong was he?
Strong, brilliant, you know, magnificent, great lad. You know, he was, you know, some of the things he used to do, you know, I'm sure that if you ask Sol Campbell, Tony Adams, those type of players, Martin Keogh used to hate playing against Heskey because he was quicker and stronger than them all.
He was stronger than Campbell and Adams.
You know, you watch videos, you'll have to ask Saul and Tony Adams and these Martin Keogh what they thought of him. But from our perspective, we always knew that playing against those sides, that if we had Heskey, we'd have a chance.
Just on the second League Cup final, playing against Tranmere, was there a lot of pressure on you to beat Tranmere?
Well, there was, because they were the underdogs and, you know, they were the neutrals' favourite. But, you know, Matty Elliott with 2 goals, David Kelly scored for them. But to win the cup the year after losing the year before was so satisfying. And this is where that, you know, I get in my career, people will say, oh, you only won 1 trophy. But that's 1 more trophy than a lot of people will, especially at Wembley, especially in today's climate where top 4, staying in the Premier League becomes so important. So if you're a mid-table club now, when you're playing weakened sides, or even the bottom teams or the top teams, how many players from Leicester or, you know, looking at now Watford, mid-table clubs, Newcastle, I'm going to win more trophies than all these players because of the eagerness and the willingness to either finish in a Champions League place or to stay in the Premier League. So how many Wigans who won the FA Cup, Portsmouth, Leicester Cities, no, I don't mean win the Premier League, I mean win these trophies. How many players now, when they finish their career, will win nothing if you play for a mid-table Premier League club? Because I'm not sure there many will be. So that 1 trophy, I believe, that is amazing. To win a trophy at Wembley as a kid growing up is beyond your wildest dreams.
What was a Martin O'Neill team talk like before a final?
Nothing much. He'd come in 5 minutes before the game, piece of paper, say the team, you know your own jobs. Nothing. It was very.
Did you like
very
that? Or would you sometimes
I like it. Yeah,
you would like it.
It worked for us. Every manager's different, but at times he would go mad.
What's the maddest you've seen him?
Oh, grabbing people against the wall, just like.
Even for that, is he quite a small thing?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's the boss. He's the boss.
How was that dressing room at Leicester? Who'd have been the big characters? Obviously yourself.
Lenny, me, Steve Walsh, Muzzy. there was big characters, but nobody tried to dominate. It was good.
Would there be fights in training and stuff like that?
Not really, no, because the lads were good. They were all good lads.
And you all respect each other. How was Collymore?
All right, yeah, I got on with Stan.
Some player, eh?
Yeah, great player. You know, did he live up to his expectation? Did he get the best out of himself? But, you know, I've known Stan for a long time, know his family, you know, nice guy, Stan.
And Martin O'Neill's good at getting the best out of the sort of players, isn't
he? And he did.
Would he treat guys like Stan Collymore differently?
No, to everybody the same. Remember Stan's hat-trick against Sunderland? I think we won 5-2 and Stan got a hat-trick. You know, wonderful performance. And I think Stan broke his leg at Derby for Leicester, and that was, you know, I was there, and, you know, to see your teammate, your mate, break his leg is not nice. Obviously, I broke mine late in my career, but, you know, Stan, good lad.
Okay, Martin O'Neill leaves. Gutted when he left?
Yeah, but understandable. He had opportunities. I think he turned Leeds down when we were there, but then went to Celtic, and, you know, he had a great time at Celtic, didn't he? And took Neil Lennon with him. But yeah, of course, when a manager's picking you, when a manager plays you every week and picks you, you want him to stay.
Was there ever talk of you going up there?
No, never was. No, never was.
No. Would you have went?
Would I have went? Listen, Celtic's a massive football club, but the Premier League is, you know, you want to be playing against Manchester United and Liverpool and Arsenal, Man City and Chelsea. For me, that's what you want to play in. Okay, you wouldn't. I played in Europe with Leicester, played against Atletico Madrid, and played against, you know, in the Europa League. Obviously, didn't play in the Champions League, but you know, when you're playing every single week's a challenge, whereas in Scotland it's not.
Leicester eventually got relegated in 2002.
Yeah.
What was it that changed after Martin had left?
I don't know. It's, you know, we had new managers. We had Mickey Adams, who's a great fella, Harry Bassett. You know, we weren't good enough. I think inevitably, if you're not good enough, I remember the opening day we got beat 5-0 against Bolton, I think it was, and that was the beginning of the end. We brought in Dennis Wise, we brought in numerous players, and you know, it wasn't the same. And you know, we knew, I think, in the March we were down, and then that's when I moved to Birmingham.
And I remember the big boy Akinbaye came in. How tough was that with him? He couldn't score a goal, could he?
He couldn't, but do you know what? Addy, great work ethic, you know, and it was one of those situations where, as a teammate, you want him to score. And I think it's a famous picture when he scored against, I think it was Sunderland, and he took his... And you know, we were all so delighted for him, because it's hard, and people will say, you know, people will talk about how much money they earn with their lifestyle, but you know what you go through when you're not scoring centre forward and the pressure on him, and you read reports about how bad you are, you know, so the lads were right behind him.
I want to ask you about one opposing player. You said that he was at Man United with you. He was an older guy at Celtic when I was there, Dion Dublin. Now, I've never seen him angry, except on Homes Under a Hammer, where there's a bit of damp in a 3-bedroom detached house. What did you say that he stuck the nut on you?
Nothing.
I couldn't believe when I seen that.
That was a situation where we were, obviously Birmingham City was the first ever, the first time they met for so many years in the top level, and there was so much pressure and nerves and everything around the game. The first game was 3-0, Peter Ankerman let the ball under his foot.
So he did,
We won that game 3-0, and it was, you know, so we were Villa were the bigger club, they had the better players, the wage bill was bigger, and we were this group of players, Jeff Horsfield, Paul Devlin, Ian Bennett, me, you know, and we went to those games with this belief and this hunger and this desire, just to think, whatever happens, you're not going to beat us. And then Steve Bruce instilled that into us. We won that game 3-0, and then the second one at Villa Park, night games, no idea why the games were at night, but they were great. Villa Park, you know, and I can see that the challenge itself was a red. You know, if you see it back now, I was quite clever. I think I got the ball in the middle of the park on the half turn, and I seen him coming. So I knew he's going to launch in. So I just nicked it around him, and his tackle on its own, if my legs had been planted, I'd have been in serious trouble. But I jumped as he's coming, and he's cleared me out. And I just said, listen, in Autumn every day, what you would say on a football pitch, you know, what on earth are you doing? That's a red, blah, blah, blah. And then obviously, that's all I was said, you know, all was said. And obviously, you know, he put the head on me, which was silly because it was a straight red. It was straight red. They lost their control, you know, and we won the game 2-0. You know, but the funny thing was, I got on with Dion before that. You know, I played with him in Manchester reserves, and he looked after me. Obviously, you know, and when he went down the camera, he was calling me names down the camera, which it was a silly act from an experienced player, you know. And in that game as well, I think it was Goodmanson got sent off for a challenge with Matt Upson. They went out with 9 men. You know, on the occasion got the better of him. And now we still get it when people tweet me the picture, you know, where's Dion Dublin? But listen, I've got nothing against Dion Dublin. Nothing at all. I don't care if he likes me or doesn't like me. I'm not bothered. He can't affect my life. So, you know, I don't, when I see the picture, I'm not bothered. We won the game. The rest's history. But, you know, simple.
Obviously, Steve Bruce signed you for Birmingham, as you mentioned there. Did he remember you from Man United?
Yeah, he did. I tried to buy his car. He had a white Volkswagen Golf convertible. And I remember when I signed him, he said, you know, I'll offer you my car, but I haven't got it now. Great fella. Memory from Manchester United. Do you know what? I let him down. I let Brucey down. To this day, I you know, when I signed for Blackburn, he gave me everything. You know, made me captain, built the team around me. You know, and I give it back. You know, I tell the good story that we signed Christophe Dougry that year. And he come in the January and he was magnificent.
What a player, yeah.
What a player. He was that good. He finished second in Player of the Year that year. And that's what I love. The fans. I had a great. I bought a house in Birmingham. I embraced Birmingham. You know, and I was a cult hero. Listen, people might not say it, but I was, no doubt about it. And I let him down when I left, you know, to go to Blackburn, because obviously Mark Hughes come in for me. Just signed a new 4-year deal. But when you've got your hero, you know, wanting to sign you, it was just something I had to go, and I was wrong in the way I acted. A disgrace, actually, in training, kicking the ball away, forcing a move through. I can laugh now because when I look at if it was a player doing it for me, you know, it was shocking behaviour. But I got away with it within the dressing room because all the lads were my mates. You know, and they knew I was desperate to leave. You know, Brucey wanted to keep me, the chairman wanted to keep me, and I resorted to, you know, being a disgrace to get the move. It was wrong, but inevitably I got what I wanted. And to this day, we don't mean Brucey are good mates, but I let him down.
He's done all right since anyway. He'll forgive you.
I let him down.
Just on to Wales. Touching that Wales team, it was so close to qualifying for Euro 2004. How good was that team?
Great team. I mean, you got a front three of Giggs, Hartson and Bellamy.
Wow.
You know, and then the midfield was myself, Simon Davis, Everton and Tottenham and Mark Pembridge. And then Gary Speed, left back, Andy Melville and Kit Simons, Mark Delaney, who was Aston Villa's right back, and Paul Jones, who played for Southampton in goal. You know, when you go to Moscow and draw 0-0, you're thinking, this is a great opportunity. And when you see the accolades that Chris Coleman's team got for getting the Euros and getting to the semi-finals, being the first team to qualify, we didn't think they'd do that well to get to the semi. Amazing job Chris Coleman done, but we could have been that team to get to the Euros, but it wasn't to be. I think we got beat, was it 2-0 that on Russia? And we didn't perform. I remember Giggsy at the post, but it was just a night which was too much for us. It was 75,000 there. You know, it was heartbreaking because, it was heartbreaking. We had a great team, but we didn't perform.
Is that one of your regrets?
Yeah, of course, yeah. It is, you know, to have played in a major tournament for your country, you know, but inevitably I wouldn't have played in it now. So obviously that, you know, we lost to Russia and it was the tournament that year. And at the end of that season, you know, I broke my neck. So, you know, I wouldn't have made the tournament as it was. So, you know, in hindsight, we'd have got there, but I'd have missed it.
Just quickly on to Blackburn, finished 6th in your first season. Was that the best team you played for?
Yeah, in terms of finishing position, you know, Bellamy, Rocky Santa Cruz, Benny McCarthy up front.
Two guy
best player I've ever played with.
Really?
Yeah, great player. You know, the partnership in midfield. You know, we play 4-4-2. You think we had Pedersen on the left, David Betley on the right, me and two guy, and then you'd either go Bellamy, Rocky Santa Cruz, Benny McCarthy, Bellamy. You know, Ryan Nelson, Chris Samba centre halves.
Amaruso there?
He was not in the team at the time. Right. Brett Emerton right back. And left back, probably Stephen Warnock, you know, Brad Field in goal. You know, done a double over United, playing for your hero. Great club. You know, got to, I think, 2 or 3 semi-finals as well. But to finish 6th, you know, I still believe I scored the goal that took us into Europe against Chelsea. Free kick, Stephen Rees says he touched it to this day. It went down as his, but I still can't see any evidence.
He's a liar.
But yeah, brilliant.
Just quickly on Bentley, how good was he?
Great lad.
Was he a character?
Great lad.
What sort of stuff would he do?
Just great lad, just a great lad. But he had the ability to get a yard and whip it in with pace. People say it was the next day with Beckham, but again, fell out of love with the game. Done great. Went to Spurs. Fantastic lad, fantastic player.
Right, I just want to ask you about the Keane voicemail in his book. Is that true?
True, yeah, true. It was a time when I was leaving Blackburn to go and sign for Derby or Sunderland. The fee was agreed with both clubs. And I must have been in an area, my agent's house, where there was no reception. So obviously I was supposed to be going and meet Roy Keane at the Marriott in Worsley, and then from there to go and meet Paul Jewell at Derby, and then decide who I was going to play for. The wages were about the same. Both teams were in the Premier League fighting relegation. And my heart was, I want to go and play for Roy Keane Sunderland. Big 45,000. Anyway, time went on, no phone call. So I thought, right, he mustn't want to sign me. So I thought, right, let's go straight to Derby. So my mind was made up, let's go to Derby. Went to Derby, seen Paul Jewell signed. Went down with 11 points. Then, until Roy Keane's book came out, I never knew to that day why he didn't sign me. And it was the time when the Budweiser adverts were on the TV, and it was just, I was one of the lads, what's up? That was the message. Hi, it's Robbie, what's up? Blah, blah, blah. So anyway, until his book came out, when he said, I was going to sign Robbie, I wanted a character. And this is where it's a bit, I can't get my head around it. He wanted a character, which I was. All he had to do was speak to Martin O'Neill, Mark Hughes, and the manager to play for to see what I was like. He would have knew I was a good lad, a good character, good to have around the dressing room. And the voicemail, obviously he must have heard it, and obviously in his book, his words were, when I heard the voicemail, he thought, I'm not signing F in that. So that was, until that day, I never knew why, and now I know why.
Brilliant. You said yourself you're a character. Just give us a bit, who's the biggest character you played with?
Biggest character in terms of dressing room, everybody, all characters. Two Guy was a great character.
He was about 40 at Blackburn as well, Two Guy, wasn't he?
Brilliant, man. Brilliant. Darren Eadie was a good mate of mine. Muzzy is it Neil Lennon. Stephen Bywater, who's
he's mad, isn't he?
Great, one of my best pals now, still lives near me. I'm very fortunate to have a career where I played 346 Premier League games. Play for my country. When a lot of people might have given in.
And when did you know it was time to call it a day?
When Strictly Come Dancing offered me a few quid. I could have gotten a Vancouver Whitecaps at 36. So I was nearly 37 at Derby. And, I owe an awful lot. Throughout your career, you owe an awful lot to a lot of people at different times. So Eric Harrison, put me on the road. Martin O'Neill made me into a man. And then Nigel Clough, when I was at my lowest point, when I went out on loan to Brighton. I was going to retire at 34 because I'd lost everything. People said my legs had gone. I couldn't run. I was a shadow of myself. I had depression. Then Nigel Clough come in. And I wouldn't say Nigel Clough saved my footballing career, but he saved, me as a person as well. Because great man, great family, obviously, history of football with his father, Brian Clough. One of the nicest men you meet in football. So Nigel Clough I owe an awful lot to. And he said, I was 36, nearly 37, played Reading away last game, and he offered me a contract in terms of, do you want to do a bit of coaching? But I just thought, do you know what? I was the type of character, and I'm sure you've come across a few, if I wasn't playing, I'd be the most miserable. And my aura would bring people down with me because I wanted to play. And I couldn't imagine sitting on the bench in the Championship knowing I couldn't do what I'd done and not play every week. I would have been unfair. So I said this to Gaffer. I said, listen, Gaffer, I'm not... He said, you'll play 10, 15 games. I said, I don't want to play 10, 15 games. I can't play against Manchester United, Liverpool for the majority of career and then be sub against Barnsley, Rotherham, Fleetwood. I'm just making names. I don't mean that in a bad way. But I can't do that. So I called it a day. And then I done Strictly Come Dancing, which... put me onto that next level in terms of what I do now.
You were hopeless on it.
At least I got on it.
I know you're doing the media now, but last question. Surely you want to get into management eventually?
I manage an under-13 side now in Edgerton, and I really enjoy it. I've done all my. I haven't done my A license. I've got to start my B. you know, I'm not a coach, I'm a man manager. You know, if I did do management, I'd have to get a coach, because I love man management, the side of things, the mental side of things. You know, I never say never. I love what I do now, but you know, when I see Gerrard doing great at Rangers, Frank Lampard doing great at Derby, obviously their footballing careers enable them to get a bigger job, better job, quicker, and rightly so. Where I'd have to probably start in the National League, which is fine. You look at Sol Campbell starting at Macclesfield, Paul Ince starting at Macclesfield. You know, so I would be prepared. Paul Scholes.
Scholes today, Oldham.
You know, and it's great. That's fantastic. You know, and I'd have to go probably lower than that, which I would do, because I'm a fighter, because I've got a great work ethic. And never say never. But listen, one thing's for sure, that I've been very fortunate to do what I've done and to do what I do now. And you know, every day I'm a humble guy, and listen, I know I'm lucky.
Robbie, it's been a pleasure. Thanks very much.
Man.
Cheers,
pleasure.